This is going to be another one of those interesting videos. It's up at 1 o'clock this morning. Decided to hadn't prayed through the house with scripture in a couple of weeks. So every one of y'all struggling out there with cat. Everyone out there struggling with things going on in your life and the enemy coming at you hard, especially in your mind or situations around you. Y'all got lifted up this morning in scripture because it was a corporate reading of the scripture, right? Instead of it being personal with me or I, it was we and us and our. So I did that, and then I had a worship playlist. So I decided to read through my daily scripture this morning at 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning. And God pointed what he wanted me to share in a video, and I argued. I did a lot of and God was like, and I'm like, okay, because this morning's scripture is one that I have struggled with for several years. Whenever I started reading the scriptures, and it's in Matthew chapter 5, and let's see if I can remember. And I like the chronological because it groups all of Jesus's teachings or his parables or his sermons that he has. He groups them all together in one day's reading, instead of you get Matthew in one sitting, and then a week later or 2 weeks later you get the same story in Mark or Luke. So it kind of groups it all together. So when I hit the one here in Matthew, I'm like, and part of my, okay, Lord, here we go, is that I'm going to go ahead and put this out now while I'm in Matthew, because whenever I hit in the later ones, and for anybody that may be reading through the daily plan with the Old Testament, the New Testament, the Proverbs, and the Psalms, and they've hit this, and if they have the same struggle because of the situation that they've went through, being divorced, that's most of it. But that was what hit this morning. And I'm gonna back up, and I'm gonna put I'm gonna get the little subheading before the one teaching about divorce, and this is still, I think, kind of considered the Sermon on the Mount. And then, depending on the version, the little topic before the one for the divorce, some of them have lust listed, and some of them have adultery. So I'm reading from, and because it's chronological, I'm going to read it from the chronological, because there's another scripture that has Matthew, and then, no, it has Mark, and then Matthew adds a little extra to it. So I pulled up my New King James Version chronological Bible to read the scripture. So this morning's scripture was Matthew chapter 5, and I'm going to... I don't want to do this. My throat's wanting to tighten up and refuse. Matthew 5, 27 through 32. Teaching about adultery. Verses 27. You have heard that it was said to those of old, you shall not commit adultery. But I say to you that whoever looks at a woman to lust for her has already committed adultery with her in his heart. If your right eye, and it goes into graphic content or graphic ways to keep from doing it, and I think it's just Jesus grabbing your attention. I don't think he physically wants you to gouge out your right eye or to cut off any hands because you sin, but it's to grab your attention and let you know how serious it is. If your right eye causes you to sin, pluck it out and cast it from you, for it is more profitable for you that one of your members perish than for your whole body to be cast into hell. And if your right hand causes you to sin, cut it off and cast it from you, for it is more profitable for you that one of your members perish than for your whole body to be cast into hell. And that's the adultery. The divorce starts in 31. Furthermore, it has been said, whoever divorces your wife, let him give her a certificate of divorce. But I say to you that whoever divorces his wife for any reason except sexual immorality causes her to commit adultery, and whoever marries a woman who is divorced commits adultery. And being twice divorced, married and divorced, that is something that I have really, really, really struggled with. And I felt unfit because I've been divorced twice. And the divorce, both of them, was me issuing the divorce. It wasn't my husband's, but it was me that initiated it. And I have hashed why in previous videos, so I'm not hashing it now. Not unless God prompts me in some of these other scriptures, but I'm not hashing it. It's already been hashed. So with it being in the chronological and me reading it last year, he had already reached the Samaritan woman in a few days before, because with it being chronological, they try to put all of Jesus's life and his preachings and his teachings and his healings in the order that they happened. And one of the stories that I cling to whenever the enemy hops on my shoulder and starts running me down, that I'm not worth anything, and that Jesus doesn't care, and that I've already screwed my life up because I'm divorced, I go to I pull up the Jesus and the Samaritan woman, which is in John, and John is the only one that has the story of the Samaritan woman in it. And why the other three Gospels didn't put it in it, I don't know. But John saw that it was important, and if you get the history, Samaritans was not supposed to be associated with Jews, so it was odd that Jesus went out of his way. Actually, I'm going to read it. It's in John chapter 4. And let's see. Therefore, when the Lord knew that the Pharisees had heard that Jesus made and baptized more disciples than John, though Jesus himself did not baptize but his disciples, he left Judea and departed again to Galilee. Verse 4. But he needed to go through Samaria. So he came to a city of Samaria, and he ends up standing at a well while the disciples go in to find food. So a woman of Samaria comes to draw water, at verse 7. Jesus said to her, and it was about the 6th hour, meaning the middle of the day. Jesus said to her, "Give me a drink," for his disciples had gone away by food. Then the woman of Samaria said to him, "How is it that you, being a Jew, ask a drink from me, a Samaritan woman? For Jews have no dealings with Samaritans." Jesus answered and said to her, "If you knew the gift of God and who it is who says to you, 'Give me a drink,' you would have asked him, and he would have given you living water." The woman said to him, "Sir, you have nothing to draw with, and the well is deep. Where then do you get this living water? Are you greater than our father Jacob?" And then in 13, Jesus answered and said to her, "Whoever drinks of this water will thirst again. But whoever drinks of the water that I shall give him will never thirst. But the water that I shall give him will become in him a fountain of water springing up into everlasting life." Verse 15. The woman said to him, "Sir, give me this water that I may not thirst, nor come here to draw." Verse 16. Jesus said to her, "Go, call your husband and come here." The woman answered and said, "I have no husband." Jesus said to her, "You have well said, I have no husband, for you have had 5 husbands, and the one whom you now have is not your husband. In that you spoke truly." The woman said to him, "Sir, I perceive that you are a prophet. Our fathers worshipped in this mountain, and you Jews say that in Jerusalem is a place where one ought to worship." Jesus said to her, "Woman, believe me, the hour is coming when you will neither on this mountain nor in Jerusalem worship the Father. You worship what you do not know. We know what we worship, for salvation is of the Jews. But the hour is coming, and now is, when the true worshipers will worship the Father in spirit and truth, for the Father is seeking such to worship him. God is spirit, and those who worship him must worship in spirit and truth." And then 25, the woman said to him, "I know that Messiah is coming, who is called Christ. When he comes, he will tell us all things." Jesus said to her, "I who speak to you am he." When the enemy starts hitting at me and telling me that I'm not worthy to speak his name, and that Jesus, that I'm lesser than because I'm divorced, not once but twice, when he comes hitting at me like that, I go back to the scripture. And this is a Samaritan. This is not a Jew. That Jesus went out of his way to reveal to, that he was the one to come, that he was the living water, that of him that we would never thirst, that we would have the water of life through him. And I pulled that every time. And then there's also the other one, that if you haven't been divorced and you're in adultery, there's another one that is a woman that was caught in adultery. And it's in John 8, where Jesus was in the temple and he was preaching, and the Pharisees, being the being the ones that they were, trying to trap him and all. John 8, verse 3, chapter 8, verse 3. Then the scribes and Pharisees brought to him a woman caught in adultery. And when they had set her in the midst, they said to